Hey, my creative friends. It is that time of day to talk creativity. And I'm Shannon from Shannon's Studio. And I am coming to talk every day about creativity. And in doing so, that means that there's a lot of thoughts going out, a lot of things that you're listening to, ideas, information, and not everything that you hear, even if it's not from me, from other places, not everything you hear is actionable at the moment you hear it. Sometimes there's some good thoughts. Sometimes we want to just listen to something and let it see how we feel about it. Just let it sit there and see what we think about it. And so the idea is that still take in the thoughts. Don't stop and go, I don't want to take any more information, because Wade, hello Wade. So a lot of these videos are a lot of information, a lot of ideas, and not everything is actionable. And you just need to let the information sit there. Because what happens is that, I don't know if any of you know what like an old coffee pot looks like. I remember as a girl watching the old coffee pots where the metal thing, there was like a little, okay, I'm going to digress right here for a minute. I had a project I was doing, and actually I put it on the Facebook, that I stayed up all night to finish. And I got it in just under the deadline by less than an hour, I think. But I stayed up and I only slept an hour and a half this morning. So man, I am tired. I am so tired. And I think a lot, they say, research says when you're sleep deprived, you start making mistakes. So I might make a little mistake here and there. Okay, so back to the coffee percolator. It was like a strainer, that's the word I was looking for. That's what made me think maybe I'm not working on all cylinders. The little strainer thing, and the coffee would bubble, the water would bubble up, and it would sift through the coffee and drain. I just remember being fascinated by that. I don't know. Yeah, Wade says Wade says a famous Shanquisha all-nighter. It's true. I'm a night owl. I just have some genes. All my siblings have some genes that just like we can grind it out at night and just make it happen. And it really has served me well. I'm trying to monitor that a little bit better, sleep a little bit better, but sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. And so I was so fascinated by those little percolators, and it made me think of this idea. We get information, we get ideas, and we let them sit there. We don't take action on everything. We don't even necessarily believe everything we hear the first time or second time around, but we let it sit there. And the idea is not to stop ideas from coming in, not to stop the efforts to bring in knowledge in your life, because you're not doing anything with it. It is doing something. It's sitting in there percolating like that little coffee pot, and the water's filtering through. And percolating means it's just like stuff. The water's passing through. It's doing its thing to make coffee, but to make ideas. So the idea was that when your ideas are in there making things happen, the Art and Fear book calls it makes conceptual jumps. So those ideas are being put together and they make jumps. I kind of think of it as like dots. All this information going in is dots. I mean, in one of the videos, 62, we talked about making dots by asking questions. So those dots are in there, and I loved dot-to-dot books when I was little. Your brain and in the back of your mind percolating are starting to rearrange those dots to make new connections. So in the Art and Fear book, they call it a conceptual jump, and it's It markedly affects the way we engage in the world around us when we start to make these things happen. Connections are made between unlike things. Meanings from one enrich the meanings of the other, and the unlike things become inseparable. And because I'm tired, I can't think of the exact topic I was talking to Alan about. But I was talking to him and explaining this concept. And there was this one main concept. But when I was explaining it to him, I had realized that I got these ideas from there were 3 different ideas that I know I literally got from other times, other information gathering besides this one topic. And it was just building this new idea, this new, it was exciting, and my mind just was, because I had taken something, I remember this part, I remember reading that our physical bodies, a lot of people do the same exact physical demonstration of victory. You know how when we cross the finish line and we go, yeah, we put our arms up like that. They research that, and even blind people do that. Even blind people put their hands up like that. There's certain gestures that we do physically that are universal. Doesn't matter the language or anything like that. I remember that idea from, it's got to be 10 years. But I grabbed that idea, pulled it in when I was talking to him, and grabbed another idea. And that's kind of what happens and what it means that they become inseparable, because you're pulling all these ideas, these dots, these conceptual jumps that you make, and you're pulling them all together. But the idea is, if they weren't there to begin with, you have nothing to pull together. You have nothing to connect. So you have to be able to take in information without feeling overwhelmed, like, I got to do something with this right now. This is important to do right now. Sometimes it's not important to do anything. Sometimes it's just important to take in. So that's why I go back to, it markedly affects the way we engage with the world around us. When we start to learn how to make those connections, to take in the information, to let ourselves generate conceptual jumps, we start to affect people differently. We can get people excited about what we're talking about because we are excited about it, because it's like this all these ideas we see coming together make it feel, make the importance of something for us, and then we put that across to other people. In Wired to Create, it says, the key to generating original ideas is the willingness to think in unconventional ways. So you want ideas about those things, those dots and those things that you want to do. You have to be willing to think differently. But then the interesting thing is that it goes on to say that 80% of adults said that the task of thinking differently was uncomfortable or even exhausting. I love that exhausting part, because there is a physical component to thinking and idea generation and all that kind of stuff. It can make you feel exhausted if you're even if you can get past being unwilling. If you can get into this, I want to think differently, it can be exhausting. But the uncomfortable part, it's naturally uncomfortable for us, the mechanisms in our brain, to try things new, to try new things, to have new ideas and those kind of things. So we're fighting that a little bit. That's why those dots are kind of just floating around, those ideas, those that information, until there's something important that you need, or there's something that makes that connection for you. So it goes on to say, but making an effort to think unconventionally can help us connect the dots in new and innovative ways by increasing associative thinking. So it is, if we can get ourselves to start thinking differently by doing different things, by taking in different information, those things are going to help us, and that's going to help us connect those dots. It's going to help us come up with new ideas. It's going to come up, and it doesn't have to be like you've found the cure to cancer. Not those kind of ideas, but everyday ideas, everyday creative, like, oh, I didn't think to put this together if I do this and this. Because that's going to build, and that's building strength in your brain. And when you can do that, you start to be more in control of yourself. You start to be more creative. So the tip tonight is to just let it percolate. Let those let those dots just kind of percolate and bubble and do their thing in your brain, because you are going to, by virtue of staying in the game, staying in the creative game, you're going to start to make those connections. You're going to start to have those conceptual jumps. You're going to start to grab those unrelated things into a related thing, new thing, that's not going to be able to be separated because you've pulled this all together. So that is the thought for tonight. And let's see, I am going to go to bed. Well, I mean, it's like lunchtime for you guys, but anyways, remember, you have a creative heartbeat, so listen for it, and I will be back tomorrow. Bye.